Foundations of Amateur Radio. My Radio Shack consists of two radios, identical, well, inasmuch as they're the same model, a Yaesu FT857D. Their memories are different, their microphones are different, but both of them are connected via a coaxial switch to the same VHF and UHF antenna. One of them is also connected to a HF antenna. Let's call these two radios Alpha and Bravo. Alpha is used to host F-Troop and play on the local repeater. Bravo is used to do HF stuff. It's also connected to a computer via a serial cable, called a CAT cable, Computer Assisted Tuning, but really a way to control the radio remotely. The audio output on the rear of the radio is also connected to the computer. These two connections are combined to provide me with access to digital modes like PSK31, Whisper, and SSTV, though I haven't yet actually made that work. The computer itself is running Linux, and depending on what I'm doing on the radio, some or other software, often it's FLDigi, a cross-platform tool that knows about many different digital modes. The computer is also connected to the internet via Wi-Fi and is used to see what various reporting websites have to say about my station, things like propagation, the DX cluster, an electronic way of seeing what other stations can hear, and there's solar radiation information and other neat tools. This shack is pretty typical in my circle of friends. I'm lucky enough to have a dedicated table with my shack on it. For others, they're lucky to have a shelf in a cupboard, or at the other end of the spectrum, a whole room or building dedicated to the task. The level of complexity associated with this setup is not extreme. Let's call it in the middle of the range of things you can add to the system to add complexity. In case you're wondering, you might consider automatic antenna switching, band switches, band filters, amplifiers, more radios, audio switching, automatic voice keyers. If you look at the world of software-defined radio, the hardware might include many of those things and then add a computer that's actually doing all the signal processing, making life even more complex. At the other end of the complexity scale, there's a crystal radio. As I've been growing into this field of amateur radio, it's becoming increasingly clear that we as a community, by and large, are heading towards maximum complexity. There's nothing wrong with that as such, but as a QRP or low-power operator, I often set up my radio in a temporary setting, like a car or a campsite. Complexity in the field is not to be sneezed at, and I've lost count of the number of times where complexity has caused me to go off-air. It occurred to me that it would be helpful to investigate a little bit more just what's possible at the other end of the scale, at the simple end of complexity, if you like. So, I'm intending, before the year is out, supplies permitting, to build a crystal radio from scratch. I realise that I have absolutely no idea what I'm getting myself into. No doubt there'll be more complexity than I'm anticipating, but I'm getting myself ready to build something to be able to look at it and say to myself, look, this is how simple you can get with radio. I'm currently too chicken to commit to making the simplest, legal, transmitter, but if you have suggestions, I'll look into it. Just so you know, simplicity is an option. I'm Ono, Victor Kilo 6, Foxtrot Lima, Alpha Bravo.